All right, so welcome to the Calcio Blogs podcast. Last weekend we had a very big derby in Italy, the Derby D'Italia. This weekend we've got an even bigger one for me, I think. It's the Derby Della Capitale. To the uneducated of you out there, that's the Rome derby. Roma versus Lazio. Lazio at home this time. And we've done something a bit different this week. I've got a supporter of each on, so I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. So if we start with, you're both called Scott, so I'll refer to Roma Scott and Lazio Scott. Roma Scott, you're on the far left of my screen. Why don't you go first? Just a little introduction about yourself and your sort of history with Roma.
Hi, I'm Scott. Scot Munroe. I am for my sins, sorry, Chris, I am a Swindon fan. I'm also a Roma fan. So I've been a Roma fan, so it was probably about since 2004. Swindon fan since the heady days of the wonderful Premiership season of 93-94. So I went to the last 3 games of that and then been going ever since. I got hooked on Italian football thanks to Channel 4. Like the best era of Italian football. I'm late 30, so I'm 38 now. So I grew up in that era of Italian football on Channel 4. My first Roma game was, 2014. So that was, 11 years ago. Roma-Juve, one of Antonio Conte's last games in charge. Roma lost 1-0. I aim to go, as I speak to Scott as well, I aim to go like 2 or 3 times a year. We both give recommendations of where to stay and all that, and which good restaurants to eat. There's a McDonald's or a Burger King where I go to. We talk about Trapezzino and stuff like that. And in the last 3-4 years, I've been hosting a Roma podcast called the Magicast. I took a bit of a break after I lost my dad a couple of years ago and just, it got a bit too much. But this year I said to the producer, I just went, Sam, I'm happy to come back full time. We've done about 6 or 7 pods this year so far. So yeah, and happy to talk about the Rome derby.
Well, you've got the upper hand a little bit. There's only one trophy won in the Rome derby, and Scott, I'm sure you'll talk about that at some point. But for now, just introduce yourself as the Lazio fan.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm sure we'll mention that one a little bit later. But yeah, I similar. Obviously now I'm an English teacher based out of Florence. Years ago, I worked in Latina and Rome, and while in Latina, basically I fell in love with Lazio back in. As I start to show my age, unfortunately, I'm a little bit older than Scott. Where I think my first game was 2003, where a student of mine, I've mentioned it on a couple of podcasts, where he came and, like Scott, I supported the EFL team. I'm a Watford fan, and the student came into the lesson. Naturally, a lot of my lessons I talk about football because it's obviously football and food. What else is there to talk about here? And the
Nothing else happens in Italy, does it? No?
Exactly. And the guy was like, oh, you hate Luton. And I was like, oh my God, how do you know I hate Luton? And in the Lazio fan team, it was about English derbies. And he obviously mentioned that. Week later, he was like, oh, I can't go to the game. Do you want my Bonamento, the season ticket? And obviously football in 2003, 2004 was a very different time. No ID was needed. You just rocked up. So basically, he gave me a season ticket, walked in, no problem. And just the noise, the atmosphere, I immediately fell in love. And the irony is we lost, I think it was 1-0 to Piacenza. So at least for Scott, it was losing to Juve. But an element.
Was this the era when that show was absolutely stacked with superstars as well?
It was basically there were still some superstars, but Cragnotti had gone to, or was either in prison by that point or on his way to prison, and the club was basically facing bankruptcy. It was one of Diego Simeone's last matches. Obviously Nestor had already gone by that point to Milan. There was still Stam, Mihailovic, Couto at the back, but a key moment on that day was the ball had gone flying over to the bench where Mancini was the coach in his obviously a beautiful Armani suit, and obviously the referee's blown the whistle for a foul, and Mancini's volleyed it from the bench straight onto the heart, the centre spot, and Stam caught the ball, and the whole crowd erupted. Roberto Mancini, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm hooked. A little bit different to Vicarage Road as well for the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So,
go on, sorry.
And basically, for the rest of that season, I travelled from Latina up to Rome. And then the following season, I moved to Rome and then had a season ticket for a couple of seasons.
So we should say as well where derbies are concerned. So obviously, you two have your own derby going on, but Roma, Scott and I also have our own derby where you mentioned he's a Swindon Town fan. It might be a bit alien to people that aren't EFL fans, but I'm a Gillingham fan. And they're up there with Millwall as our most despised club. So there's a bit of a three-way derby going on today.
I've seen it in outside train stations, and the last couple of times I've been to Priestfield, including one in April where, it kicked off pre and post game. It wasn't pretty.
During the game as well, I believe the players were going out. I think Jules had 2 red cards that day, didn't we?
Yeah, Johnny Williams got sent off at the end, and I think the goal scorer that day also got
Joe
sent
Cabode,
off.
yeah, he did. Yeah, he went.
A bit of a naughty challenge at the end, but yeah.
Yeah, I think they both had holidays booked because it was the penultimate game of the season. So
yeah,
maybe needed a bit of time out. But look, we'll get back to the derby at hand. There's been 185 proper matches. I think there's been a few friendlies or whatever here and there. Roma do hold the upper hand. Lazio, Scott, you're a veteran of a few derbies. Roma, Scott, you've been to many Roma games, but not a derby. We'll defer straight to Lazio, Scott. Talk us through the derby day, the atmosphere. You see various posts on the internet about what the fans are like, but someone who's been there, talk me through it.
It's fun. It is a very different experience because every game I always go to Ponte Milvio before the game for drinks, and you can see like the atmosphere generally around the city is a little bit different. There's a bit of an edge like around the place, and then like Ponte Milvio, you can just feel there's a bit more about it. Like one of my early derbies was I remember like the Rugby World Cup 03, and I remember going to watch an England play. It was a early kickoff, so I'd been there, but I had my Lazio shirt on at the time, and I had the Lazio shirt on in the pub in near Via Cavour, the Irish pub, and a guy came over to me. He's like, "You can't wear that today. You shouldn't be wearing that around the city." And it was like a very, real warning not to be doing it. And admittedly, these days I don't tend to wear a shirt, but I have my scarf, and it doesn't come out until I get to Ponte Milvio or as I'm crossing Ponte Milvio, and I know it's in a safe environment. Whereas obviously for Roma fans, generally, even if it's our home game, you'll see Roma fans wearing colours, obviously, around the city and going to the game. But the atmosphere is electric. Obviously, for the Curva, obviously, my season ticket is on the Curva Nord, and it's crazy because obviously Curva Nord is always hard. Going in is always lots of police checks, 3-4, which even as a home fan, you get 3-4 police checks, the tickets, the bag checks, etc. But for the derby again, it's the queues are a lot bigger. It's a lot more intense trying to get in. You're also going in that a good bit earlier than you normally would, and of course, because like with the Tevere, with Montemario, generally, especially Montemario, you sit where you're allocated. But obviously for the two Curvas, it's like old school England back. And you're going where you stand. And we know that in the stairways, people stand. And again, also then, often there can be, obviously, we know there's a lot of choreography in Italy, but in particular for the derby becomes that very special choreography. And it's almost like part where you can see the work that goes in. And again, the ultras are making sure that people are moving. They can't be in certain places because obviously, depending on what needs to come in, you'll find obviously the guys who've been there like today, tomorrow in the stadium already preparing. The more 12:30, maybe not the morning before, but they're in there. Luckily, obviously, nothing's happening over the weekend, so they're getting this ready, and and the other weird thing, or I still find it strange, is seeing that the ultras are on the pitch before the game. Like the ultras are like on the track part, both sets of ultras, and when the players are warming up, then when the players come over, like because the players always come over before a game, but you never see the ultras actually there on the actual pitch side. So it's a very, and then obviously as soon as when the players are come on to start, then the ultras will come back into the stadium or into the actual, obviously onto the Curva. And from obviously not just the start to the finish, but obviously pre-game as well, you can hear like the noise, the atmosphere is absolutely like electric.
It's a lot more animosity in it, I think, isn't there? Because I've been to the Milan derby as an Inter fan, and they've got this sort of pact of non-belligerents, which it turns out if you read the news, there's a lot more behind it actually. But they sort of had this whole thing of, Milan's not to become a war zone and where to treat the city with respect. And, people sit together in the stands and, from different families or same families, different clubs. It's quite a respectful derby. This is not the case.
No, and even the Montemario is obviously the expensive stand and it's very nice to sit in. I've had both the pleasure and the so much pleasure because obviously I had to pay a lot of money, but to sit there for 2 derbies. One, unfortunately, I was by the Curva Sud, surrounded by Roma fans when Roma won 2. When we were in 2010, when we were 1-0 up at half time, missed the penalty. And then Vucinic scored twice in the last 5 minutes, and everybody was going crazy around me. It was the ash cloud crisis. And as I was walking back to Trastevere to meet my missus and my friends, my dad texted me flights were cancelled the next day. So it was like just disaster after disaster. But you'll see, even in there, obviously, the Montemario's split, and even where I've seen friends arrive, and there was, like, say, 3 Lazio fans, 1 Roma fan, and they made the Roma fans sit away from them. And even you've seen, like, Roma fans sit near the Curva Nord, and at half-time or halfway, they'll move to the other side or find somewhere. Or likewise, and it's funny because you've got this dividing glass, and, you're paying €115 to sit here, and then here you're paying €45. So, it's a really definitely, and I suppose generally you wouldn't see a family split. It's very unlikely that you'll see like one brother supporting Roma, one brother supporting Lazio. Obviously, I'm sure it does happen, but it's not something that would be very common. You look at obviously like Liverpool, Everton in England, the Milan derby, whereas then you flip to Rangers, Celtic, where again, you wouldn't. I know that's obviously religious based, but again, you generally don't see. You see that the families don't tend to be split, and it's the same that Rome derby. You do, and it'll be.
So would it be split sort of by like areas rather than just who you fancy? Is it sort of the working class people from this area support one, and the middle class people support that team?
I don't know what Scott thinks, but like generally, because again, like you've got this element where maybe we talk about, obviously Roma fans will say that Roma owns the city, and then we're like the outside area, or also then when you look at like the Frosinone, Frosinone, like areas of Lazio, Frosinone, Latina, Nettuno, Anzio. But in reality, or the thing that in theory, because obviously we started in 1900s, whereas obviously Roma was the combination in 1927, but so you've still got some sort of this old part of Trastevere, even though like Trastevere would be heavy Roma, but when you start there and Monteverde, you still see some of those older neighborhoods that would still be kind of quite would be sort of still a bit pro Lazio. And we see a lot of obviously graffiti around the city wherever you go, bar the sort of this historical centre.
So Roma, Scott, then there's a chance for you to bang the drum for your team. You hold the upper edge, 69 wins out of 185 games, 65 draws. Have you got a favourite win in there?
It's one of the ones that Scott mentioned, 2010 Vucinic derby. It was actually a day after my birthday, so was that April 18th, 2010? Julio Sergio saved a penalty. Did Sergio Flockery score in the first half? Yeah.
Flockery scored and then missed the penalty.
Yeah, and then it's when Ranieri took off both De Rossi and Totti at half-time, because he said they were both too amped for this derby game because they were the 2 Romans on the pitch. And then Vucinic scores this free kick out of nowhere, top bins, and then gets the penalty and sends the keeper the wrong way. I've got probably 2 more. It's the Totti selfie in 2015. What it must have been.
Because Liverpool fans would have you believe Mo Salah invented that last year. But it comes from a long way back, actually, yeah, the selfie celebration.
Yeah. So he was born 69, so I'm thinking he must have been 36 or 37 then, maybe 30. Like last year with 2-0 up. Was it Scott Felipe Anderson scored twice? Wasn't that one? Yeah. So I think
like we were amazing the first half. Yeah. Incredible.
And then second half, it was one of Rudy Garcia's second season. It was between Lazio and Roma for second place, because that derby was in January, and then the second derby was like the second to last game of the season, and Newcastle legend Yango Mbia scored a header right near the end, and Victor Ababo scored. Scott, Watford legend. But no, I have 2, and then one of Rudy Garcia's first derbies, like Balzaretti scoring and then running in front of the Curva Sud, basically in tears because it was such an emotional goal for him. That was, I think, maybe Roma's 4th or 5th win in a row. They went on this memorable 10 wins I think maybe 10 or 11 wins in a row to start the season. They won away at Inter. They absolutely decimated Inter 3-0. This is where Totti was playing as false nine and Gervinho was playing on the right, and they were just feeding Gervinho, and he was just going. Like, Italian defenders didn't know how to cope with him, and like,
there was a FIFA where he was at Roma where he just had unbelievable pace, wasn't there?
the pace.
You just couldn't catch
You
him.
have him on one side and Victor Ibarbo on the other side. You're winning games online. Juve had like this magical end to 2014 and then won the league. I think Conte, I think it was his last season, they got 102 points, but yeah. And then probably one of the last, like, I didn't include it in the message that you sent me, but there's one from last season where Lorenzo Pellegrini was getting absolute pelters in the press. He was, I think he was going to, or he's been linked with a move to Napoli. He scores that in the first 10 minutes, and Alexis Salamakas scores like 5 minutes later. Roma just low block for the rest of the game in Ranieri's style football, just sit back and defend, and then they won 2-0. And then there was the Daniele De Rossi derby last year. Mancini scores a header. This was 2024. So I went to the game, which was Roma-Milan, not so long afterwards. I think it was like a week or so later, where Roma won in the Europa League. Mancini scored. Mancini's went on this mad run and scoring like 3 games in like 3 weeks. His sister's brother died of a heart attack, I think. Was it a Serie D footballer or something like that, Scott? Was that on the news?
I didn't realise. I didn't know about the connection, but now that you've said it, that does ring a bell.
Yeah, or is it his partner's brother died or something like that? It might have been. I might have cocked that up, but yeah, I went to like Roma played Lazio, then they played the 2 Milan games. So I was in Rome when they beat Milan in the Europa League, one of the best games I've ever been to. But no, those are those derby memories for me. Like watching it over here, I've not yet been to a Rome derby. It's on my bucket list. Like, I would have went to one a couple of years ago, but it was just too expensive to go out. The ticket prices, I could moan about ticket prices over here in the UK, and it's just like mental to watch League 2 football. But trying to get a Rome derby ticket is like a needle in a haystack. You're not going to get one if you're not like a season ticket holder. They go on general sale, and like if you know, Scott, trying to get tickets for games in Italy are quite good. It's quite good to get them on websites through Lazio and through Roma if you're registered. But getting a Rome derby ticket, if you're not a member or a season ticket holder, is like, nah, you've got no chance in hell. But no, like, I remember being in the
just
queue.
stuck with my plans for the second half of the season there.
You may,
because I had
Chris, you may have a chance.
home game for Roma earmarked.
You may have a chance, but yeah, it's like Roma are quite good on their website to get tickets. They normally do tickets like a month before the game, and you're in a queue. Like, I remember queuing up for 2 hours online while working from home, including on my lunch break to get tickets for the Milan Europa League.
You just had to get in. That was your lunch break.
Yeah, I had to. I paid €123, like, for a Europa League game. Like, the game I paid for after, which was the Roma-Bologna game, I was also in the Curva Nord, and I echo what Scott says. Trying to get into the Curva Nord, you go through like 4 checks, a bag check, and if you got one of these, a portable charger, good luck, because that's not getting through. Like, a friend of mine went to one of the Roma-Bologna game during the season, and like, he had to hide his portable charger in his pocket because you're not allowed in with them in certain parts of the stadium. That's how tight-knit security it is. But no, it's I've done like 15 Roma games. Rome derby hasn't been done yet, but maybe in the next couple of years it could be.
Well, we'll go together, Scott, if we can figure it out for the second half of the season.
Yeah, should we both? I'll wear a Swindon shirt, you wear a Gillingham shirt.
Yeah, I'm sure no one will know what we're going on about.
No,
I was surprised to hear when you talking about your favourite derbies. You didn't mention 2002. Vincenzo Montella
5-1 and a 6 in the car, yeah.
Yeah. No, I won't do this anymore to you, Scott. Lazio, Scott, you can talk now finally.
Yeah.
About 2013 Coppa Italia final. Tell us all about it. Were you there?
I was. And I'd been we played in the league 2 months. We played the finals 26th of May, and April the 8th, because it was my wife's birthday, we played in the league. just before, and the game was supposed to be on the Sunday, which was the day before her birthday. So she'd okayed the trip. I was like, okay, we'll do we'll go over to the game, and then obviously we'll do whatever you want to do for your birthday, no problem. Of course, European matches, the game got put to the Monday night, and Hernandez scored. I think Hernandez might have missed a penalty. I think he missed a penalty, but he scored a cracking and goal from outside the area. The old backflips kicked in. But at the end of the game, on my wife's birthday, we'd had a lovely Sardinian lunch, beautiful fish lunch. I need to add that. I didn't just take her for football on her birthday, which is, she doesn't remember that. But what she does remember is waiting at Piazza Mancini after the game, and no transport came because there was fights everywhere, and it all kicked off. And this was the start of the basically ban up until about 2 years ago of no 8:30 kickoffs, 9 p.m. kickoffs in the derby. So we walked halfway back, or maybe we got back to Piazza Flaminio, and then finally got a taxi back to the hotel. And then she sent me for a bottle of wine or two to return. And so I'd had that trip. Then, of course, we get drawn in the final. I was studying as a very mature student at Solent University at the time, studying sports journalism. And I was like, it was coming to the end of the course. I was like working part-time teaching in a call center as well. But I didn't really have a lot of money. And by this point, I was broke. And my lovely wife, who I am forever grateful, said, no problem. And I took out a brand new credit card just to pay for the trip. Not most financially sensible move, but I was like, I wasn't going to miss it. And I took a friend along, and we did a bit of culture, a bit of art and what have you. But on the day of the final, was fantastic. Again, Ponte Milvio before the game was very special. I got a photograph of someone holding a Totti shirt, burning it, and everyone's like singing around. Yeah, and of course, remember that obviously the ultras, the IWs, you would never pay for that shirt. These are stolen, things that are then stolen. And then so I had some great shots of that. And obviously the game itself wasn't great, let's be honest. But again, who cares in a derby? It's the result is the key. And when obviously Lulic, before the game, I don't know if you remember Gangnam Style PSY, or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
So it was bear in mind, obviously, the Roma fans and Lazio fans hate each other, especially on a derby day. And the pre-match entertainment was Gangnam Style Psy. And literally, as he finished, the whole crowd booed. And you can see on YouTube. And he was supposed to be
unifying moment, yeah.
He was supposed to be playing Rome 3 days later. He cancelled the gig. Honestly, it was crazy. Obviously, that was the only time both sets of fans agreed all day. But again, obviously, winning that game, Lulic became iconic. The image of Totti crying was it's something the dreams came for us. And even seeing images where they had where Totti's documentary, but then people have imposed in the mirror a picture of Lulic's face haunting him forevermore, But and then afterwards we went back to Piazza del Popolo, buying the newspaper at midnight that had come out for the next day, which I always buy 2 Gazzetta dello Sport after a derby win. Unfortunately, I haven't got a lot of them, but I always buy 2 Gazzetta dello Sports and 2 Corriere dello Sports. One to look at and one to go in the box, as there's the memory. But it was, that was definitely a special night for sure. And I'm always and the fact that it's been the only ever Coppa Italia meeting between us, the final. Yeah.
Not even just finals, just in the Coppa in general.
So in the Coppa, we've met a few times over the years. One of my early ones we lost in 2003. A couple of years ago we won once or twice, I think, once on a one-legger when it was Mourinho. We said goodbye to Mourinho, yep. Unfortunately. It was a sad day for me, but
not for me.
Yeah. And then in the semi-final a couple of years ago as well, but only one final that we've ever met together.
Not in Europe either. There was wasn't there a chance last year or in a couple of years before if Roma got past someone and if Lazio got past one, they could have met together?
Yeah, and even because last year it could have been Bilbao. It could have been Bilbao's disaster. Yeah. It could have been that we could have met early on, But then also the way it went, we could have ended up meeting in the final, which could have been interesting.
Would have given us a
to
better
say the
final than the one
least.
we had, let's face it, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
that was-
terrible.
That was awful. That's probably one of the worst games of football I've ever seen.
Let's get back to nice football, because with Scott, you've actually talked more about him probably than Roma, Scott, but Francesco Totti is the joint highest scorer in this game with 11. He invented the selfie celebration in the game. I won't embarrass you too much, let's say, Scott, but you did say that he was the one player you grudgingly admired from Roma.
Yeah, like even like when he left the ultras, I can't remember exactly what the banner was, but it was like, we always hated you, but we always respected you, was the kind of the sentiment behind it, you know. And again, I often thought he was very lucky. Not as lucky as Ibrahimovic, but he was very lucky with referee decisions. A little bit like Shearer in England, you know, the referees tended to favour him, got away with a lot. That might have been my light blue tinted
Lazio glasses on that, isn't it?
But but I do, like when you watched him and some of the goals he scored, and like, again, some of my friends, I'm definitely going to abuse me for obviously saying this and admitting it, but it's, you can, again, it's back to that thing, you have to respect the man. And I often joke with my students. I say, we know that Totti's not the most intelligent person, and when it comes to, like, obviously his general intelligence, but he was one incredibly intelligent footballer, like genius on the pitch for sure.
Roma, Scott, eulogise a bit about them and his...
I was actually at his last ever game, which was against Genoa in 2017.
So I always, every time I'm scrolling and that video comes up of him sitting in the tunnel waiting to come out, I always stop and watch it every time.
I'm not going to lie, I was probably not the only person who may have shed a tear. There may have been, I may have cried like a little baby when the game ended, but no. Like, I've watched clips now because he's been retired, 8 years? Like, there's an anniversary tomorrow of his 300th goal for Roma, which was 10 years ago. You see some of the stuff, what he did, like, back in the day. I don't think you would see it now in the number 10. I think the number 10 in nowadays is a dying art. You don't have the number 10s. It's more the wide players or the attackers now. Like, you've got the wide winger and Lamine Yamal, who's a phenomenal player at 17, and you've got these strikers now who are just scoring goals. Erling Haaland's going to break records for years to come. He'll break Shearer's Premier League record in about 3 or 4 years' time. I thought Kane would break it, but if Kane doesn't come back to the Premier League. But the number 10 is a dying art. You don't have number 10s now. Like, him and Juan Roman Riquelme are like the two greatest number 10s of my generation. Joe as well, but he started...
you can't not say bad joke, we're talking 10s.
No, of course. But he was maybe he played a little bit before my time before I was born, and then as I grew older, you do see him. But Totti is like a Roman legend, like Graham Souness.
But the goal he scored against Inter at the San Siro, where he dances in and out and then lobs. Is it Julio Cesar, isn't it? He just about 30 yards out, just lobs him. Like, incredible. Man.
Like,
just the things he did with a football were just not human, were they?
It's just insane. Like, there's an X account called @Trequartista. I just post Totti videos from back in the day. But then over here in the UK, I don't think he's utilized. Sorry, he's not well known for pundits don't like him that much for some apparent reason. Like, Graham Souness did not rate him at all, and it was just what's he ever done in football? And I'm just Graham Souness, go watch a Roma game and stuff like that and just see what he does. Souness was... I
think if Graham Souness has stuck against it, we could all say he's a very good player, can't we?
Yeah. But Souness was a player in his time, wasn't he? But he was this tough tackling midfielder. But the elegance, the beauty, some of the goals.
Do you think a bit of that is just because he had an opportunity to go to Real Madrid and he didn't do it? I think that sort of thing, if he'd have gone, he'd have won some Ballon d'Ors, surely, wouldn't he?
Yeah. I've got his book. He was going to go after Capello left in 2004. And, I think he was still annoyed that Capello left to Juventus. I think quite a lot of Roma fans haven't really forgiven Capello for that. And that was, 21 years ago. But, Totti, as, Scott said, just, if you ever watch a compilation of him on YouTube, you'd be, mesmerised at what he did. One of the greatest ever... I think he is one of Roma's greatest ever footballers. But one of Italy's, He has to be, but one of Italy's best ever players, and like attackers to play in the number 10, just for me.
Yeah. And so, Scott, who's your Lazio player you admire the most on the other side?
He's now playing in Saudi
You
Arabia.
may talk about Totti. You've got to talk about a Lazio player. Come on.
Yeah, he's now playing in Saudi, so it's Milinkovic-Savic for me. I just think watching him play is just like, could you imagine him in like a Roman midfield with like De Rossi and Nainggolan, Strootman, Pjanic, like what he did in one of the 3-4 years for Lazio's midfield, it's elevated Lazio onto a different level. Like him, Luis Alberto, Lucas Leiva in that midfield three were just like phenomenal for Lazio for like 2-3 years. Scott, was it just like?
Yeah, because obviously Lucas Leiva left slightly before, but he was such an unsung hero.
Yeah.
You didn't get the credit. Like he was, fantastic.
Yeah, for like watching Milinkovic-Savic, just like, God damn, you're so good at football. He came from, was it Genk in Belgium, and then went to, was linked to Man United every summer, linked to the Premier League every summer. Like,
Everyone.
isn't everyone? I'm still thinking Wesley Sneijder could do a job for Man United in the midfield.
But even for
Triple winner with Inter, by the way.
Yeah.
Milinkovic-Savic was on his way to Fiorentina. Like, literally, he was on his way. They were waiting for him at the airport. And somehow, I wasn't a big Tare fan, but he somehow managed to get him to come to Rome, and he signed for Lazio. And I hear a lot of my Fiorentina supporting students are still very bitter that they missed out on that gem. Because obviously, likewise, then they missed out on Salah as well when he went to Roma.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I don't think Fiorentina fans don't like Mo Salah at the moment, because after what he went on loan for their 6 months and then went to Roma on loan. But yeah, I was a bit sad that Milinkovic-Savic left because he went to Saudi. As a footballer, I don't begrudge people when they reach a certain age to go for a payday. You get that one big contract. We're all workers, get offered big money to go for a different job. I
find a lot of people doing 40-hour weeks, sit there judging someone turning down £20 million a season. Would any of us say no to this? Absolutely
of course not. This Saudi is this new puppet in football. It was China a few years ago. Now it's Saudi. It's always going to be the Premier League. Premier League is going to get all the serious money at the moment because of the TV deal. But I was a bit sad, and I don't begrudge him for going, but a part of me was a bit sad, and then a part of me was like, yes, don't have to deal with him in the midfield, him and Luis Alberto, running the game. But no, he was just an elegant player. Scored some brilliant goals for Lazio, and I was just like, yeah, that's a player I could watch week in, week out.
So, look, before we wrap up then, because we're probably starting to bore some people now, not me, by the way, but we talked a lot about the past, about previous derbies and what our favourite ones, etc. You've got 2 days to go. Well, a day and a half really now to go. Let's start with you, Roma. Scott, what do you think? I mean, how do you feel going into this derby?
There's got to be a better performance than last Sunday, which was absolutely wretched against Torino. I was a bit
I was
miffed.
at the San Siro when Inter played Torino. If anyone lost to that team, then Jesus Christ, you know what your head's looking at.
It was their first win of the season. They drew with Fiorentina before the international break. But no, just Gasperini playing Dybala as a false nine, and then you got Dovbyk and Ferguson on the bench, and you don't use Dovbyk. It was just a bit baffling. And then in the week, Wesley's ill, and then you've got Mario Hermoso who's out injured. And I'm just thinking, I saw reports that Gasperini might go 4-4-2 and bring Tsimikas in. I was just like, don't change the shape just for one game and it's a derby. Stick with your principle, sticks with a 3-5-2 or the 3-4-2-1. But I saw reports via Sky Italia that he might play 3-5-2, which I'm not against because it gives you the extra body in midfield. Against Lazio, because Sarri always plays 4-3-3. He's going to stick to his principle. He's very, like Scott says, with the hands. If you've been to Italy, you talk with your hands. But yeah, he's embedded with this 4-3-3. So if he goes 3-5-2, you match with it. But missing Dybala, missing Hermoso, and missing Wesley could be difficult, because Wesley started pretty well at right wing back, and then Hermoso's come back into the team and done really well after being ostracised and outcast. But they have to perform better than they did last week against Torino. They have to get a performance. And I'm quietly confident, because Lazio have struggled this season. They've only got one win out of the 3 games, which was against Hellas. They've lost to Como and Sassuolo, but they have to be better than they were last week. It doesn't help that it's another 11:30 kickoff. So that's 2 games for Roma in the last week are on 11:30. And it's not even on British TV. It's not on TNT Sport. You have to watch it on DAZN, which is also miffed me.
That £9 a month is really getting its value out of me, to be honest with you, at the moment.
And me.
But apart from the Derby d'Italia, I don't think an Intergame's been on TNT yet. No.
No, they're on Sunday night against Sassuolo.
Yes, they are. Yeah. Won't be watching. I'll be asleep probably. Lazio, Scott, come on and tell us. So yeah, your season didn't start great, but you did win your last game. What do you?
Very true. So I should start there and say I'm very jealous of your £9 a month for your DAZN. My DAZN's €35 a month. So I think I'm paying 25 for Sky Sports, so that I'm watching a bit more of the Premier League. But generally, I watch a lot of the Italian football. So DAZN's 35 a month.
It's ridiculous. That's stupidity.
So but it's obviously that, and then they obviously wonder why people look around for other options. But it's kind of because this year I meant to mention it earlier. So I'm doing, because I'm obviously where I write for obviously a website that myself and my friend Luke have, Tibs News, and I created this sub brand Calcio More, where I'm trying to do all 38 games this season, which luckily my wife has signed off on. First
it's always
game,
the one, isn't it? Not the bank account, it's the wife.
No, that's for sure. I'm curious if I'm going to, and also trying to balance it with work, but I'm curious to see come February, Cagliari away, how that's going to work out. But we'll see. But the first game, obviously, Como, we managed to extend it into a 5-day holiday. So at least she was very happy with that. Como, great experience, lovely place, beautiful. Obviously, that stadium, the views, incredible.
I saw Gillingham win there in a pre-season friendly 2 years ago, by the way.
Really?
We need more info on this. On this.
So it was the season Como won Serie B. Oh, they won it. Sorry, they came second, didn't they? Before that, the start of that season, out of nowhere, Gillingham announced that we were playing Como in a pre-season friendly. We went out, we won 1-0. Dom Jeffries, I think, got the winning goal. Ended up in a bar with Dennis Wise and the Gillingham team, quite drunk by the end of it.
Because obviously now Dennis Wise is gone now, isn't he? He's not there.
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah, he's out. Yeah.
He was, and obviously a big part of that whole development was he losing 2-0 as incredible.
Incredible, wasn't it?
Such a wonderful player.
I fully expect he'll be at Real Madrid next season.
Yeah.
I don't know what I think they've wiped out the buyback or something, but there's definitely like
9 million or something, isn't it? They had originally, but
yeah, there's some
Spurs
kind
wanted
of
to pay 70 million for him or something in the summer.
Like he's fantastic. And I think they're going to be very strong this season. They're hard to beat, and they were a bit more physical than I expected from a Fabregas team. But definitely, and at home they're going to be very, very hard to play against. We then played Hellas Verona, and again I went into I think it was like the Sunday night game. I went into it not really expecting much. I knew like Hellas aren't great at this season so far. But obviously I was like, my big concern with our transfer block was that we obviously haven't been able to buy anybody. And last year we had problems for goals. And again, I didn't really know where the goals are going to come from this season. This is my big, big concern. And within 10 minutes, we were 2-0 up. Tati had his best performance in a Lazio shirt. Zaccagni was on fire, and everything was like, it was like Sarri 2 years ago. It was beautiful, like really, really amazing. The Rabana assist from Tati, insane. And that's what you can see these glimpses of genius from him, but it's not so rare and not so common. And then obviously last week I went up to Sassuolo or Reggio Emilia for the Sassuolo game. We were like, and the thing is, I'd gone to a friend's house, 2 Romans who live in Modena, and we were obviously, there's 4 Lazio fans watching the Roma game, delighted with ourselves. We saw because I thought for the goal, I thought Trino had messed it up because they slowed the move down, and then obviously Simone. I was like, and obviously, we were celebrating, and going into Sassuolo, it was a perfect opportunity after the Hellas Verona game to get that momentum. Unfortunately, there's maybe obviously the red card, and then for us was losing Rovella when Rovella went off injured, and that's obviously our concern. Obviously, he's back training, but he's a key player to be playing on Sunday for us. And I think I've predicted 1-1, but we could easily get beaten heavily. I could be crying in my pints afterwards. I don't see us getting a very comfortable win. Like maybe we could get a 1-0, maybe 1-1, or the other side. Yeah, it's like, Derby goes out the window. For the first time though, we've got 4 Lazio lads or 4 Lazio fans that are in the squad. We got Lazio, whereas, Rome generally always had that, you said, like the De Rossi, the Tottis, that heart, but obviously Romagnoli, Pellegrini, obviously, ironically, both played for Roma, but, they're both big hearts, Cancellieri, and then obviously Cataldi. Cataldi, I was really sad when he went to Fiorentina, and I know he did well at Fiorentina, and had they not changed coaches, I think he was going to sign for Fiorentina, but I'm delighted he's back. Even though, again, he's got that solid squad player, and and now that we don't have Radu anymore to give us a bit of fight in the derby. I miss that. Radu will be there in the stand because he's at all the games, but unfortunately, I almost give him the shirt just to come out and roll him out for the last 10 minutes for a little scrap.
So you mentioned about 4 scores there, Scott. Put your neck on the line with one. What do you reckon?
I think 1-1. Yeah, I'm going to go
Scott, what do you think?
I'm quietly confident.
Mm.
I think whoever scores first is going to win the derby. In my head, I was thinking 1-1. It's probably the safe bet. I'm going to go for a 2-1 sneaky Roma win, and Evan Ferguson to score his first goal in the derby. First Roma goal.
And
sorry.
so that's one thing I wanted to just touch on briefly before we do finish, because I'm a big fan of his. I've watched him a few times in England. Actually, I'm just going to say ridiculous, on a Intersave on FM a few years ago, I had Evan Ferguson scoring hundreds of goals for me. So I always like him. So, and glad he's in Italy because I think he'll get goals there. How many now has he settled so far? How does he look?
Yeah, he's been playing really well. He looks, because he came back after that horrible, was it knee injury he got when he was at Brighton? Then he went on to loan to West Ham. That's a basket case of a club in itself. And he's struggled there last season and the last few months of the season. But he started well in the last couple of games. He didn't, against Torino, I don't think anyone played well. But against Bologna and Pisa, I think Roma had a physical striker up front. I think he's just the striker that they wanted Artem Dovbyk to be last season, but Dovbyk lacked confidence, played for 3 different coaches, now on to his 4th. Ferguson's coming in from a different country. Against Bologna, he had Nicola Casale on him all the time, and then Casale got injured, picked up the hamstring injury. Same game that Ciro Immobile got injured after 20 minutes. I think he had a muscle injury as well. So you had 2 ex-Lazio players injured. I'm like, we're in here, got a chance against Bologna. But no, to answer your question, Chris, he's settled in nicely. He just needs a goal. I think he scored for Ireland in the international break. But just if he gets one chance against Lazio, fingers crossed he takes it. Yeah,
instant hero status there, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
No worries. Right. Sorry, go on, Scott.
Sorry, just because do you remember, you saw with Abraham when his first derby, and you could just see it was such a different experience from the lads coming from the Premier League, where obviously you could see beforehand he was so buzzed up, and again it'd be interesting to see, because again that atmosphere when they come out, it's the warm up, it's very intense. That iconic shot of Luis Figo coming out, Real Madrid, Barcelona, with the sound. And again, for both sets of players, it's for anyone that's their first derby, it's always a very intense sound. When they're coming,
especially coming from England as well, isn't it? Because I don't want to shit on the Premier League. I watch a lot of the Premier League, but it can be very sterile and sanitized compared to a lot of European football, like Italian, German, even the French football. And the football's terrible, but the atmospheres are great in France. I think coming from England, it's a bit of a culture shock for some of the players, isn't it? Yeah. So, look, before we tie up then, before we finish, I'll start with you, Roma Scott. Where can we find you online? Where are you tagged and what you're...
God, I have to remember this.
I will tag you in them afterwards anyway, but in case someone's listening and not watching.
It's at Scot _Munroe. Scott is 1T. Yeah, I was named after the country because my dad was Scottish. He was born in Glasgow, and it's at the Magicast. It's the podcast I host. I mainly talk about football, cricket, and sometimes there's some food picks in there when I go abroad.
Swindon Town.
Top of the league, though.
Let's talk tomorrow. Scott, where can we find you?
From my at Scott Balaam, SCOTT, I'm the 2 T's, BALAAM for Mike. My surname is very strange. And then obviously Tibs News and obviously at Scot Munroe, which is my little passion project that is costing me a small fortune. But like Lazio, you know, I have the passion. I have the trips, the journey, meeting the friends, meeting new friends is amazing. Sometimes the football lets it down.
I've often find it's the worst part of a day out, to be honest with you, the football.
Yes.
I agree.
Look, thanks, guys. Thanks for your time. It's Friday night and it's 7:30, so look, I'm sure we're all going for pints or something now. So, enjoy your Friday. I'll get this published straight away, and then, thanks for listening.
Cheers for having us, guys.
Cheers. Thank you, Chris.